I have heard from countless students in Connecticut, where we have some of the best educational institutions in the country. I know that my colleague, Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire, who has been very much in touch with the people of her state, and particularly young people there, striving, as they are in Connecticut, for more affordable education. We're talking really about the future of our country. And there should be nothing contentious, certainly nothing partisan, about this issue of financing the future of education, and particularly student loans. There ought to be a common cause here, and it ought to be bipartisan. And I believe eventually it will be, because we need to come together on this issue for the sake of young people whose lives are very directly and immediately impacted by this issue in Connecticut and across the country. Not only their lives, but our competitive economy, increasingly a global economy in Connecticut that depends more and more on exports and more on talented and gifted and trained, educated, skilled people. We need them in Connecticut, and we cannot permit the interest rate on Stafford loans to rise to 6.8% from its present rate of 3.4%. Even now, the debt, with the present 3.4%, is crushing to many of our students who are struggling to pay their student loans with that lower interest rate. Stanley Notowitz, who contacted my office, who is seeking solutions in good faith, constructively and positively, reached out to my office because he experiences the same financial hardships facing millions of recent graduates across the country. He's paying $70 a week for gas. He's providing financial support to his grandmother in her late 80s, who might lose her home. He's trying to save money to get his own apartment. And he's one of the many, many students in Connecticut and across the country who have reached out, and my office has helped him. And I've also heard from Brenda Cashmere, a mother who would be crushed if she were forced to pay this higher interest rate. Again, my office has helped her to meet the ever-increasing challenges of today's economy with that student debt that now overall is the highest of any debts faced by our people as a whole, more than $1 trillion. Senators Reid and Harkin want to come to a solution that will keep the burden off the backs of students without adding to our national debt. It's not a tax increase that they propose. It is simply a solution that clarifies tax rules that are already in existence by closing a loophole. It's known as the Gingrich-Edwards loophole. I wish it weren't known by that name. But it lets lawyers, consultants, and highly paid professionals dodge payroll taxes and push that burden off on the middle class. Getting rid of this loophole is another step toward an America where everybody pays their fair share and everybody plays by the same rules. It's the America that we grew up believing in. It's the America that we continue to believe in. And some have claimed that it is an America we've lost. I don't believe it, and we can prove it by closing this loophole. The provision proposed by Senate Democrats to close this loophole is narrowly tailored to affect only wealthy individuals, those making over $200,000 for an individual or $250,000 for joint filers. And they are trying to shield their salaries from taxes, calling themselves small businesses. It will not affect the actual small businesses of this country, and it will not raise taxes for anybody who already pays what they owe in payroll taxes. This loophole should be closed independent of the student loan crisis. We're to close this loophole regardless of the challenge we face now in keeping the interest rate at 3.4%. Very simply, we're being asked to make a false choice. the choice between accessible education and improved public health. It's not a choice that we have to make. Our long-term economy, and as a result, the federal budget, will both benefit if both these goals are served and preserved. There's an old saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that is supremely epitomized by this situation. Last year, an analysis in Health Affairs found that for each 10% increase in local public health spending, the rate of infant deaths and deaths from diabetes, heart disease, and cancer dropped significantly. Preventing these deaths and the costly treatment that precede them could save the federal government large amounts of money and improve the quality of life for countless Americans. So I urge my colleagues to come together to recognize that preventive health care is essential to the futures of this generation that will take advantage of the 3.4% interest rate for their Stafford loans, but other generations as well, generations whose parents they will be, generations who are their parents. This program is essential. The 3.4% interest rate should not be a partisan issue, and we should be closing this loophole regardless of the Stafford loan issue. But one way or the other, we should pay for it by closing the loophole and making sure that students have an affordable interest rate for these Stafford loans.